Ms. Fry. Mr. Knapp.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Tenuta.
Here.
Ms. Velosa.
Here.
And Ms. Jack Weeks.
Here. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we have one action item, and our action item is to approve the change of the calendar. To move our spring break from March 23rd to the 27th to March 17th to the 23rd, and grading day from March 20th to March 16th. Is there any discussion?
Actually, I move to
Oh, yeah.
do that.
Yep.
I'll second.
All right.
Can I go ahead and read this?
Yep.
So let me just read the statement for what we're doing here. I'm recommending, like you just said, moving grading day and spring break to March 16th through March 23rd. I want to clearly communicate our proposed plan and reasoning. There's no confirmed cases of COVID-19 in our schools, and we are not aware of any pending cases. However, we've experienced an increase in concern, confusion, and times anger from members in our community regarding COVID-19. In looking at the CDC guidance to schools, it states that by moving our spring break earlier and thereby aligning the break with other community groups, the majority of schools in Pima County have their spring break next week, we will be able to do three things. The first, take a deep breath and take stock of the current situation. This includes planning for and understanding the ramifications of possible future decisions will have on students, staff, and families. The CDC states that a short break can allow time for further understanding of the local COVID-19 situation. CDC also states that future decisions must plan for the anticipated academic and economic impacts and unintended impacts on disease outcomes. The second thing it'll do is allow time for our custodial staff to deep clean our schools. And third, it'll give our school leaders time to plan more extensively for all potential instructional scenarios that could occur this spring. If the recommended spring break change is approved, we will reduce the economic impact on our staff. However, we do significantly increase the disruption of our families. They will have to navigate the next few weeks. We understand people have established plans for the originally scheduled break. These absences will be excused and will not affect attendance requirements or open enrollment status. So with that, any questions?
Jack?
I have one question.
Yes.
Is there a chance that students could maybe return to the school like Monday or tomorrow and just get all their school materials that they would otherwise not have needed over the weekend?
So we're gonna send out guidance to the staff. And then after that, I think we get the staff to kind of get themselves sorted out, and then we send out guidance to the students. Cause the first thing is, this is just for essentially like a spring break situation. There's gonna be some guidance from the state about what happens beyond that. And so first we get the staff to kind of get themselves organized, and then we send out to the students saying, here, you need to get to your school, you need to get materials, you need to get stuff out of your lockers. So not tomorrow, but yes, we can.
So they will be notified then?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that's a great idea.
I think the statement that students who have to take time off the second week will not be penalized is incorrect. If there's teaching going on and students aren't there, they will be penalized. So, I mean, and that's not good, that you're gonna have a week of teaching and some kids may have to take off that week because of prior plans.
I think it's true, but I'm not 100% certain of B school that week either. I think there's a lot of things changing right now. And that's one of the reasons to take this pause right now, is to find out what those things are through the course of the next week, so we have the right decision.
Yeah, I would just acknowledge a few things. So some of the things that I've heard, some of the many things. I mean, first I would say that I think this is a tremendous community because we have heard a lot over the last 48 hours, and that's great. I mean, people are vocal, they're thinking about this, they're working through it, and that's important, both positive and negative on this. Some of the things that I heard or that people have posted or asked about, so why is this meeting now? And people would get notice in an hour or whatever, and this would be effective tomorrow. So a few thoughts on that. One, I think we have to give notice of any sort of meeting. So people don't necessarily know that, but we can't just meet on a Friday night, get together and make decisions, call it good.
Yeah, there's state laws.
We would be in jail if we did that.
Yeah.
So we needed to give plenty of notice, have an agenda, all of that sort of thing.
Real quick on that one is also, we're not allowed to meet. So this is the first time we get to discuss this as a group.
Not even an email, like
Right.
together, that's
Yeah.
considered a public meeting,
Yeah.
so.
We could all get fined for that, so.
The other thing is that I think this situation is ever changing, literally at this point by the hour, so Dr. Hagerman was
So
just saying.
I know at this moment, Kathy Hoffman, the superintendent of public instruction, and Governor Ducey are meeting. So there's a discussion, because at this point, 40 schools in Phoenix are closed indefinitely. 20 states are closed. And so the likelihood that there could be an extended closure in Arizona is quite high.
And that's a relatively new development. And as people know, as of Thursday night, the emails that were coming in of this Little League is closed, soccer is closed, and today it was Old Pueblo Gymnastics. I mean, it is ever changing, and we are doing what we can to make the best choices for people. The other thing that a lot of people talked about is shut down for 2 weeks, this notion of shutting down for 2 weeks. And
so let me discuss like why we picked the time frame that we picked so far. So as it stands right now, there's certain rules we need to follow. And so doing what we're doing right now, we have a way to fund our staff, and we're not asking or like kind of making a decision that we have no rules that allow us to fund staff. We also have currently certain laws in terms of how many school days we're supposed to have and all those things. So all those things in this situation are still in place. We're meeting every legal requirement while we wait for guidance from the state that says, here's all the ways we're gonna give you latitude to do something different.
or not.
Or not. So other districts that are closing indefinitely, they're making decisions that are essentially outside of what they're technically allowed to do, hoping that the state catches up with them. Because the other school districts have also just got it done with their spring break, so they don't have those days to move around. We have those days to move around to give us space to wait for the state to catch up to us. And so my position is, let's do everything that fits into the rules as they stand right now, and then kind of adjust as we go.
I'm a parent in the school district. I also work in the space of virology, so I'm very familiar with COVID-19. I get briefs as well. I think that it's important to recognize that it's very difficult to know, because there hasn't been testing widely in the state, exactly what's transpired in our neighborhoods, our communities. I absolutely support what you're doing as the first step. I think it's really smart as it relates to listening for the next steps. However, I just want to caution that the reason why they're taking those steps is for the health and safety of the individuals, recognizing that the laws might have to catch up. And so I ask that you consider that, especially with the consideration of an extension for an additional week, or whatever the requirement might be for safety, because at this stage, by sending the children home at the moment, it's very clear that children could be carriers, as could we all. It's very difficult to understand the complexities there, and I think the state will take action more broadly. It's very clear that this is fluid in California. California is already starting to do that in greater capacity. Arizona has not even had as many capacities to actually test as some of the other states that are now taking additional action. So I just ask that you consider, I know that this is a break time period, but with that in place, I would consider not just the extension, but the extension indefinitely, so that there is the possibility of either tacking something on at the end of the year, lobbying the state when there is a need, but that comes secondary, I think, to our children and to the grandparents actually in this community that potentially have the ability to have benefit here too, which oftentimes may be the primary caretakers of some of these kids during this time.
So that is something that we have talked about extensively. We also have a community that is composed of a lot of older adults. We also have a high open enrollment population, so if it does get going, it's not just in this community, it is all over Tucson. We have people who drive 45 minutes to get to school. So I mean, these are all things that we're aware of, and I think, go ahead.
And so, and this action just is the first one. We're essentially in a situation that we need to make an additional action. We can, with 24 hours notice, make any additional steps that we need to take. So this is by far not saying this is what we're doing and we're all done. At least that's what I'm proposing.
Yes, this is step one, then we'll assess and then meet next week.
Yeah, the one thing that I know, in terms of, I talked with the Fulton superintendent and the Capitol Hill superintendent, we are all in alignment that we would really like the state to act, because us acting piecemeal, patchwork, district by district, is not really in the interest of our kids, our communities, and our staff.
This is the point that I was trying to make on and say that before meeting, that as school districts, to some degree, we're backed into a corner right now, because the county health department has made it clear in their words that under no circumstances that they see will they recommend shutting down the schools. And the state has said we're in business, so we are technically responsible for, you know, the number of hours per day of face-to-face education, not online, you know, not anything that's distance ed, but in person. And until that shifts, that's where we are.
Yeah.
So,
And we don't have any guidance of what that would look like when it does. So we're starting to develop the strategies and the kind of supports for what that looks like. We don't have the rules to even know what an instructional day looks like if it goes remote. The one good thing is that everything we're doing follows, in my mind, follows closely with what CDC just sent out on Friday, and it follows everything legally that we have to do right now. So I mean, we are we're trying to find that balancing act of not acting too fast, but not really kind of putting people at risk either.
Right, because we receive, I've been in contact with educators and they're concerned not only for the people who are at risk with health issues, but also the hourly staff. If we go and close, we have a significant number of hourly people who won't get paid because of, we would take those, hoping those rules would catch up with us. So those people would be impacted, we wouldn't have an income, and some of them, they are just sole income.
So is there anything people can do to push on the governor's office to kind of take charge of the situation? Because I think that's what's really lacking right now.
I think, you definitely could, say how you feel one way or the other
Mhm.
to either the LD10 members or the governor's office and on either side. And
I think there's also the potential for federal dollars, so
But the first step is because we have the budget capacity, we budgeted for a certain way, but we're not allowed to do something called gift for funds. So we can't pay for people if they don't do essentially the work they're doing. So with teachers, we have some flexibility on how that would look. We don't have a lot of flexibility what that looks like for hourly employees, but the state could give us some waivers and some leniency of how to do that.
there's a lot of things that they could do.
Yes.
I mean, this is the thing, is that, and I think this is part of why it would be great to, say we're shutting down for X amount of time, or we're gonna move break and then shut down. But I would love to have total faith in the state, but I don't. Sometimes they make great decisions around education and sometimes they don't. So we're at the mercy of that, making our own best decisions as a district and then hoping that as they work together, maybe today there will be something that comes down, or tomorrow. I mean, I would hope in the next few days that there would be something tangible that would come down.
And if not, we can get together and meet.
Yeah, I like the nature of this because it's a reasonable prophylactic step that doesn't bind us to anything, doesn't violate any laws, doesn't get us having to get back money to the state or some draconian thing if they decide differently.
Or leave staff hanging.
Yes, and it does leave a little bit open as whether we'll shut down permanently or what. But I think it's better to go step by step than do something on our end that's really final at this point.
Assuming we get the 3 votes and we approve this, I think throughout this week, as information comes available, we'll need to just broadcast it to the community, because we may have to come together for another vote, and again, we're gonna have to do it after a number of days, get notice of the board. So all that could happen again next week, and people should expect that.
Yeah.
That's the way it's gonna go.
So we'll be communicating, the first step is we have a phone tree that if it's a yes vote, that we're getting out to the staff and then getting out to the community, that there's what we've made the decision, and then start working with staff with all the planning and all the kind of contingencies we need to get going.
Yes?
Did you?
Oh, I'm sorry,
I was
I can't tell
acknowledging
where
you.
you're staring. So a couple of questions, so, have you been in contact with your counterparts up in Phoenix about the ones who've closed indefinitely, those school districts?
Yeah, how
How
they're
have you
funding.
proceeded, why have you gone down this road when you don't have the state's money to do?
So their biggest issue, so think about the level of concern we've had, we have the ability to move our break over. They're coming out of break, so they don't have those days.
They'll have this way forward.
And so this concern is happening while everyone's not together, and so essentially they just we can't open, and so they're essentially kind of just, because they didn't have this other strategy, but you don't necessarily hear from Sunnyside, Amphi, Marana so far, because they're on break right now, they have that space to kind of act. So but when we've asked them, what are you doing with payroll, what are you doing with this? There's a whole lot of silence so far.
So everyone sounds like it's just bated breath waiting for what the governor
Yep.
is going to do.
And so, all right, well, if there's
So
no.
I'd like to address like people that may not support this. So for me, and I'm gonna speak for myself, but I've considered a lot of people's input who do not support this. And it is not an easy decision for me to do this. And I think that the disruption that's gonna happen is gonna be real, right? Like this is a reality that we have to deal with. And to be honest, I hope that I have to apologize to somebody. So I realize the impact of this financially, daycare, exposure, whatever your concerns may be, I have taken those into serious consideration for this. And so thank you for everyone's support, and I hope that this goes well.
All right, there's no further discussion?
Because I'm still new,
Okay.
once there's a lot of logistics that will go along with this kind of decision, getting the teachers, the resources, communicating to the students, getting the students ramped up to, you know, and it looks different at every level. At what point, so I don't know, I know that's not part of our vote today.
Well, I think there's no precedence for this.
Right, so
I
and
don't know if there's a canned answer for this.
So I'm bringing this up because this was legit consideration, concerns that were brought to me by several people. What do? Several educators don't feel that they're prepared to go to a remote learning situation, even though it might have been communicated otherwise. So I just wanna make sure that we're aware, that it's expressed that that's a concern, and we need to understand the logistics of getting that taken care of, and that we're not blind to that, and we need to make sure we're doing what we can to do
I
that.
think we need to make sure that the community understands that it's gonna, if we're going to a remote kind of situation, it's gonna start off at a very basic level. And the nature of the education is gonna look significantly different than what they get right now. And then we try to get as far as we can and as comprehensive as we can, but we shouldn't make any like grand statement that we think that on day one, it's gonna be an experience that matches what students got.
Well, and I don't think you can do anything until the state says you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Because right now, you
There's
are
no
not legally
rules.
allowed to deliver stuff unless it's in seat.
So, yeah, the rules are face-to-face instruction for 180 days right now.
Yep.
And what the rules look like in a different situation, we don't know yet. But we do have some guidance. There's a lot of good materials from teachers that have been in China for the last 3 months that have a lot of good articles out that say, hey, these are the strategies we use, this is the tools we use. So there's a framework out there, but let's not act like it's gonna be the same kind of experience.
Well, I think there's no way that it's gonna be seamless. I mean, starting with the after-school activities getting canceled and sports and all of that, and then as you move towards
We're having a
changing spring
meeting
breaks
on
and
Sunday at
people's-
1 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean,
Just to be clear.
I said to my 11-year-old standing outside of Trader Joe's yesterday while there was a lineup of people, and the level of anxiety of people was sky high. I said, this is history making, like, take this in, because this is unprecedented. This is a road that none of us have traveled. There's nothing to pull on. It is changing by the hour. Nobody knows what to do. And so we have to go at it as a community. We have to come together, and we have to know that there are gonna be hiccups and glitches, teachers who are gonna be frustrated, teachers who rise to the occasion and shine in an incredible way because they have online skill sets and they can share that and, step in and help others. And, this is what it's gonna be. We're gonna be at home for many, many hours with children, 3-year-olds, locked in. This is what it is. Like, this is not gonna be easy for anybody. And maybe it will just be changing spring break. Maybe this will just be a week or two of change for people. But I think realistically, we need to look outward. And we've had these conversations for weeks. So the other thing I would say is that this isn't, for the district, this isn't just percolating now, all of a sudden. We've talked about the online piece, we've talked about food. My biggest concern is we have kids who need to eat, and we need to figure out how to do that. We're talking about that, we're working through that, figuring out what the best solution is. We have staff that have to be paid, we know that. We're, to the best of our ability, we will do that, but it's very uncertain, and everybody has to just take a deep breath, go stock up on coffee, you don't need toilet paper, coffee, you know, whatever your happy place is, figure out how you can navigate this, and we have to move forward together. I mean, I just think that's the only way that it's gonna work. So the more that we can support each other, and if there is feedback and thoughts, please, we welcome that in a kind and respectful and positive way, as much as we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, this hasn't happened in 102 years since 1980.
Yes.
Sorry, just one other item, just on your comment. I think it's completely appropriate. When you look at the community, this is a community that has pulled together in so many different ways. It's the reason why we live out here. It's the reason why we decide to attend these schools. I think you shouldn't discount the community providing some additional level of support. The more open that you are in these types of discussions, not just to get feedback and opinion, but to actually request participation, I wouldn't discount the opportunity to do that, and do that soon. You might be surprised.
So we just had that conversation last night, where we talked about our faith-based partners who have been so ready to step up and have done so many things for the district already, and all of the people who are online saying, I wanna help, what can I do? If you're older and you need help, and I said to Dr. Hagerman, well, you know, so I think it's a matter of strategizing and figuring out how best to use all of the social capital that's here, because you're exactly right, that's why we live here.
Including possibly supporting the part-time individuals that might need support during the time period where they would be off. I'm just putting it out. There's lots of people here in the community that might be willing to participate, even if it's a small amount. It might make a difference for the individuals that are really struggling during a time period where they could provide some level of support.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, then I guess if there's no other action items, I'll adjourn this meeting.
We'll start